Welcome to the Hot Chicks Write Hot Books podcast with Jen Foster and Melanie Johnson, where authors give you their inside secret tips on how to be a successful best-selling author. Hi, welcome to Hot Chicks Write Hot Books. I'm Melanie Johnson along with my partner Jen Foster, and we have a couple announcements before we get started on our podcast today. We want to make sure if you're interested in going to the Villa down in the Dominican Republic for one of our book writing retreats, you go to hotchickswritehotbooks.com and register for our next retreat. It's coming up pretty soon, and we wouldn't want you to miss that. We have such a fabulous time down there writing your book at the beach. And also we want to let you know to make sure that you take a look at our products to help you start writing a book, and we've got a lot of great systems that you can get that helps you write your book really fast. And if you're interested in hiring us as a publisher, you can find us at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Well, today we have Pip Hall all the way from New Zealand with us today. We're really excited to have her. She is two firsts for us. First of all, she is the first person we've had from New Zealand, and second of all, she is the first screen script writer that we have ever had on our show. So we're kind of branching out from books, and we know a lot of people always talk about writing a screenplay, so we are so honored to have you, Pip, all the way from New Zealand. So thank you so much for coordinating the time zones and getting everything in sync with us, and welcome to Hot Chicks Write Hot Books.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in being a screen scriptwriter and radio writer, too.
Ooh, so I've been a scriptwriter for, this is my 20-year anniversary, so that's been
Congratulations.
I know, it's a big milestone. So I kind of just fell into screenwriting. I didn't really aspire to do it when I was a kid. My dad is a very famous playwright in New Zealand. He's the most famous playwright we have. So we went to lots of shows, and I guess because of that I wasn't particularly interested in becoming a writer or following my dad's footsteps, and I went to university and I totally flunked out. I was doing economics and law, and we had a sabbatical year in London with my family, and my mum and dad said you can go to see any theatre show you want to see. And so I went to 50 shows. And as I was there and watching more and more theatre, I was like, you know what, I could do this. I can do this. I'm interested in it. I love it. And then I went back to university and I trained there and got a degree in drama. And because suddenly I had found a passion and a love, it started to come easily. I got picked up at a university comedy competition by a TV producer who saw me performing and writing, and that's how I got my first gig as a TV writer. And from there I wrote some plays, I wrote more TV, and I'm just starting to get into films as well.
Wow. So Pip, tell us, how would one get started in writing a screenplay? I have so many people that tell me I have such a great idea for a screenplay, but I have no idea how to even format it.
Good question. I think the first thing I would recommend is actually just write a scene. Write a scene, see if writing dialogue is your thing, because for some people it's not. They love the idea of writing a movie or writing a play, but actually dialogue isn't their strength, or it's not actually what they're interested in. So that's what I would do first. And then if you love writing dialogue, if you like making the characters talk like that, that's great. So then I guess, what else would I do? I would work out what kind of format you should use. Not format, but what form. So with script writing, you could write a play, you could write it into a TV series, you could write it into a film. So I think about the size of your idea, what it's about, and what medium it fits best. So you can write a play about a tiny idea. If it's a more kind of contained idea, a film might be good, but if it's an idea that has lots of legs and you can see lots of story possibilities, lots of characters, then it might be a TV show. So yeah, once you pitch what form you think it is, then there's lots of different ways to go about it. There is certainly a kind of prescribed process you're supposed to do with writing a film and TV, which is to start with a short outline, so you kind of work out what the story is and you write it in prose. So you can write a treatment which might be 3 pages, it might be 5 pages, it might be 20 pages, to kind of work out what it's about, work out the characters, work out the story. So that's how you're supposed to do it.
That was great advice, though, because I wouldn't have known, the difference between writing for a play versus writing for the screen, and where it should go. And I like how you did it with a small idea versus something big and a lot of characters, like for a TV series. That was really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's actually quite difficult. So I've been working for 20 years, and sometimes I'll have an idea and I will still be like, should I write this into a play? Should I write this into a film? Should it be TV? So don't freak out if you don't quite know, in which case I would just pick the one that most appeals to you and start there. And a lot of script work starts as one thing and then gets adapted into something else. So plays often get adapted into films. Sometimes films get adapted into big stage shows. Not as often, but they do. Often those big West End and Broadway shows come from films. And plays and films sometimes get made into radio. So, yeah, don't freak out if you don't know what it is, because it can be more than one thing.
Yeah.
Well, tell us some of the stuff you've been working on, or some of the things you've worked on in the past that you're proud of, or you want to, let our listeners know that you've done.
Oh, so I guess in New Zealand I'm predominantly known as a playwright. That's where I've had most of my work done. My latest play is called Ache, and that's coming up at a theatre in Wellington next month. And I call that a deconstructed romantic comedy. So, excuse me. And that deals with people, adults, kind of late 20s, early 30s, who are going through what we call in New Zealand, I don't know if you have it over there, called a quarter life crisis. So
I've never heard of that before. I love it. A quarter life crisis.
Yeah. Well, it kind of totally makes sense. It's when you're in your mid to late 20s, you probably trained, you think you should know what your life is going to be, you maybe had your first love and you're heartbroken, and you're kind of like, is this it? Is this what my life is going to be? Mm-hmm. So it's about 2 characters who are dealing with that. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about. And some other stuff I'm working on at the moment is I am co-writing in New Zealand they're called Sunday night dramas. So they're kind of like a one-off TV movie, I guess, and we're having a fashion of doing true life stories. So I'm doing a co-write on that, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. And I do quite a lot of development work for TV companies, which is really fun and really exciting. So that is when either they come to you with an idea or you go to them, and you sit around a table with other people and you just jam about what this could be. So you sit there and you go, maybe she should be a doctor. No, maybe she should be an ambulance driver. And you basically together nut out what a show could be, and then you write it up into a document that goes to the production house, and then that goes to the network, and they decide whether they want to make a show or not.
That sounds like so much fun. That doesn't even sound like work. That just sounds like you're having a good time.
Exactly, because I find the thing I find the most challenging about being a writer is sitting by myself in my lonely little office, looking out at the world. But storylining or development work where you're working with a team, and it's such a pleasure to work with other writers and you jam off each other and it's really sparky. Sometimes it's really hard, but just feeding off other people is really good.
Brings me to the question of how do you go about, what is your writing style? I mean, do you lock yourself in a room? Do you make an appointment with yourself every week to write? I mean, what gets you going, that gets your ideas going and gets it down on paper for you?
Deadlines. I am a deadline girl, and I've spent, actually it's interesting, so I've been, 20 years I've been working, and probably for 19 of those years I've been beating myself up about what is my writing process, and I should be doing like this, and I should be doing like that, and other people do it like this. And I've come to realize that actually there is no right process, and what I'm doing seems to be working. So what my process tends to be is I often have maybe 3 to 6 projects on a go, all at different stages. So some will have a script will be due pretty soon. Some will just be little germs of ideas that I'm kind of developing up. And I spend a lot of time thinking, which is work, but I'm sometimes not at the computer. So like I will read a scene and go, oh, I need to work out what's going to happen. So then I'll go for a run or a surf, and then miraculously the answers seem to be there after that. And I can now judge how long it takes me to do something, and usually I wait right till the last minute. So I know, okay, it takes me 6 hours to write up that document, and it's due in 6 hours, so I've got to start now. So there is a certain degree of procrastination in there too.
In school, it reminds me of my children. That it's like the paper's due. When are you going to get it done? Right before the deadline.
Yeah, I think that's a personal thing with writers. Like some writers I know are really disciplined. They get up, they work between 8 and 12 every day. I'm not. That doesn't necessarily work for me. Sometimes I have 2 or 3 weeks off, but actually I will have been thinking about it all that time, and then it just comes out quite quickly. I know if I'm really excited about an idea, I find myself wanting to write it. So even things like once I put the kids down to bed, I'll just write a little bit more in front of the telly. Yeah, so I guess my process is pretty changeable depending on what's on.
Well, you know what I like that you said, you go surfing in between. And when we do our book writing retreats, we have our own pool there, our private pool at the villa. So we'll go dive into the pool, or when we're writing at the beach with everyone, they go walking on the beach, or we go for a banana boat ride, and it kind of breaks up that energy and refreshes your mind, and then you can go back at it.
Yeah. Well, I also liked how you said that you even though you're not sitting at a computer and writing, you are still working because you're thinking about it. You're going over things in your head. You're thinking about things. So I think that comes into play for any writer, because you can be thinking about what you want to write about or thinking details of it, and then you put it on paper later. So that's great.
And it seems to, I think that for me, that certainly shortcuts a lot of time, because there's nothing more painful than sitting at the computer with dead fingers going, I don't know what's going to happen next. And I find that it's really paralyzing. So I would rather sit down once I know what's going to be there. And another tip I found, which is really helpful, is often I find when I'm writing, that as in the process of writing, you come up with really great ideas, and you're like, oh, yes. And so what I do is I save the new, fresh ideas and don't work on them in that session, so that when I come back, I go, oh, I've got that great idea. I know. So there's kind of impetus to come back, and it's not the stress of going, oh, well, what's going to happen next, because you've already kind of worked that out, but you've saved it. Yeah, that works for me.
So let me ask you, are there any elements that should be in every script? Like, are there 3 elements that someone should keep in mind, or 5 elements, or 1 element that should be in every script when they're starting to write? Yes. So I guess scripts, screenplays and plays are drama. So drama is conflict. So there needs to be a certain degree of conflict in every script. So I'm not meaning there's a big bar fight or whatever. So that can be internal conflict. So your characters are battling about part of their personality, or they're battling, so internal or external forces. Some people suggest ideally they should have both, especially in kind of a traditional film genres. Often the hero character will be battling with some internal struggle, and it's not until they overcome that they can overcome their external struggle. That's very common in the climax. That is usually what happens, is those 2 storylines come together. I think that your characters need to change. So the characters that turn up on page 1 need to be different on the last page. They need to have gone on a journey. They need to learn something about themselves, ideally. Or maybe if it's a tragedy, maybe they don't learn it, but we
we learn more about them, and we know that they should change, and we're sad that they can't.
Like a transformation. You can see the transformation or lesson that's learned.
Yeah. I think those are the two main ones. I mean, there's lots of other bits and pieces. I think I ideally want to know more about myself when I go to a play or a film. And so having, I guess that's maybe theme, isn't it? Being clear about what your theme is, and, what's really big currency in script writing is the voice. And what is your voice? What are you trying to say? How are you trying to say it? Why should you be telling this story? That is really a big thing, and that's what producers are looking for, is a unique voice. So I think to be able to put that onto paper is really important. It's quite hard because you personally can't really articulate what your voice is. It's kind of more readers or people who see your work that go, oh, that's your voice. But don't be afraid of writing it your way, because that's what makes it different.
I think those are great tips even for someone writing a book, to give a piece of themselves and show a transformation, even if you're teaching something, that they feel like they walk away afterwards feeling different and transformed. So that kind of crosses both genres, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a writing thing, yeah.
So also tell us, how do you go from a screenwriter? So I was out in Los Angeles recently, and I must have run into at least a dozen people in my short little trip that said, I have a screenplay. And then they don't know what to do with it from there.
Yeah, I know. That's the tricky part. So in New Zealand, well, there's lots of things you can do. I guess New Zealand is probably the same as the States, but we're a much, much smaller market. So things I would do to help get your script and you noticed are things like be an active member of your community. So one of the other things I do is I'm the president of the New Zealand Writers Guild, and I'm really big on writers being active members of the community. So if there's a talk given by a writer coming from Australia, go to the talk, listen, go to the drinks, network, talk to people. There'll be producers there. So you kind of, the first kind of thing is kind of, you want people to know who you are and be able to put a face to a name. I think that really helps. So that when your script turns up on their desk, they're like, yes, I saw them at that conference. And that's quite hard. I find that screenwriters sometimes are not very good networkers. And I think that's something we have to get better as writers, is that kind of fine balance of selling yourself and selling your work.
Yeah.
So be active, be in the community, go to events where people who make films go. Don't stalk them, but, network.
Yeah.
I think
sorry, I was just going to say networking is very important for any kind of branding, whether it's just to get your screenplay sold or your playwright sold, or to brand yourself or your company. So making sure you network and getting to know people and making sure they know who you are. That's great.
Yeah, because actually I think that's probably how most things get made. I'd be interested to know how many films get picked up just on a read off someone's desk. So that's really important. I think if you're a brand new script writer and don't have any contacts, like you don't have friends who are working professionally, or you don't know agents, there is a couple of websites. One is called The Blacklist, and there's another one which I can't remember at the moment. And they have two purposes. One is as a script advisory service, so you send them your script, you pay some money, and they have readers who will give you a critique on your screenplay, which is really useful.
Oh, yeah.
Really useful. They break it down into like 10 sections, like character, story, tone, genre, and they give you really constructive feedback. And they have maybe 3 readers, and so that it's kind of quite a broad feedback. So that's really useful for you to then go back and rewrite. But then if they think the scripts are good enough, you can launch them on their website. So it becomes kind of a hub of new scripts that agents and producers kind of trawl looking for new work. So that is a really good way to get your work noticed. I would say enter competitions for sure, because you've got nothing to lose. It's a good deadline. Often I use competitions. I go, okay, so at 1st of December, I know there's always a playwrights competition for a new work. So if I've got a new thing, I aim for that. Often in competitions, you can also get feedback. You might get lucky. You might become a quarterfinalist, semi-finalist. Lots of people read those. Yeah, so those are kind of some ways if you're brand new into getting your screenplay kind of out there.
Those are great tips.
Also, I think if you know people in the business and they have agents and management, get them to see if they can pass on your work. I mean, what's really common, especially in the film industry, is you have lots. So you write your feature film, but then you have a whole cache of other documents around that film. So you would also have like a 1-paragraph story outline. So that's another good way, is that you don't send your whole script, is you can just send it like a teaser. So they go, oh yeah, that sounds like our cup of tea. Great, please send us the script. Or they say, we're not looking for romantic comedies, we'll pass. So yeah, that's another way to get stuff noticed.
Those are great tips. Great. I love all of those. I think those are really useful for someone who's just in that vacuum and doesn't know how to get started.
Yeah.
Now, looking you up before we interviewed, I saw you have this really unique passion or hobby that you started, and it now has transcended and morphed into something bigger, and you've even written about it. So I don't want to give it away, but I want you to tell us about it. And you even did a TED Talk about it.
I did. So I am a water ballerina. My friend Judy and I, it's like 8 or 9 years ago now, we had both, I don't think she even had kids then, but my kids were really little and I was kind of going a bit crazy at home, and we wanted to try synchronized swimming, which is like an Olympic sport. So we rang up the synchronized swimming club and said, do you do lessons? Can we learn? And they're like, yes. And they said, how old are you? How old is your daughter? And I said, oh, it's not for my daughter, it's for me. And they were like, what? How old are you? I was like, mid-30s. And they're like, no way, you are too old to do synchronized swimming. So Jude and I went, we want to do it. So we just started it ourselves, and we got a group of friends together. And synchronized swimming was too hard, and we morphed it into water ballet in the kids' pool. So it's much more artistic. We put on full-length water ballets. We put on little splash mobs. It's fully inclusive. Anyone can do it. As long as you can count to 8, you're allowed to be in the group. It's mainly made up of mainly women, and 95% of them don't have a performance background, like professionally, so they might have done something at school. And it's really great. It's really inspiring, and often most summers we have anything from 50 to 100 women doing it.
Oh my gosh, that's huge.
Yeah. It's really empowering, because we just tried to do something for fun to get us off the couch, do something kind of active and creative, and it's been really interesting. It's been very transformative for a lot of people. You know, they come and they've been feeling out of sorts and down and kind of depressed, some of them, and then just getting in the pool. Someone used this great line, which was, it washes the dust of everyday life away.
Aww.
I thought that was a beautiful sentiment.
I
yeah, I did a TED talk. Did 2 TED talks about it. One was, they had the TED Global Talent Search a few years ago, and I applied to do it and got picked to do like a little 5-6 minute talk in Sydney. So that was pretty amazing.
Yes.
And then I did a TEDx Auckland talk later that year. So that was pretty cool doing TED.
And the one in Auckland, you actually had, you unrobed and had a bathing suit on underneath and stood on the stage with a bathing suit. You brave woman.
I know. Well, it was interesting because for me, doing a TED talk was such a big deal, and I was nervous and worried and excited, and it didn't seem any more scary to do it in my bathing suit. So I thought, actually, it's like a costume, and it really shows what the group is all about, that I kind of had the courage to go out there in my bathing suit. And if I hadn't done the water ballet, there's no way I ever would have been able to do that. So it was a good visual storytelling.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. And you look fabulous in your bathing suit, by the way. You look like you're in tip-top shape. So I will say that. Now, you have to tell us the name of the group, and then tell us about how it transformed into your writing.
So the group is called the Wet Hot Beauties.
I love that. The Wet Hot Beauties.
And it's kind of like a contemporary, it's kind of based on the 1930s, 1940s kind of Esther Williams, Budbee Berkeley, but it's a modern, we have a modern cheeky twist, so we only use contemporary music, and so we glam it up in that kind of 30s style. And so, yeah, I was approached by a producer who had seen the group and knew about water ballet, and they were intrigued, and they thought it would make a good fit, like a good feel-good comedy film. So yeah, I've been working on that. So that was an interesting process too, because they came to me and they just said, we just want you to write something about the water ballet. And I was like, okay, but I don't know what the story will be. So that's kind of the opposite way that I've ever worked before. Usually people come to you with a story, and it's, you know, it's about a man who overcomes his, you know, his terrible phobia of spiders to, you know, whatever it is. But so that was quite a tricky process, actually, finding what the story within the kind of premise was.
That does sound. So we have the Hot Wet Beauties are on Hot Chicks Write Hot Books.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me show the website of that really quick. This is Pip's website, and this is the Wet Hot Beauties. It just has a little blog post here. If you want to check it out, that's piphall.co.nz, Wet Hot Beauties. So you can check that out.
Very inspirational. I love that. Well, Pip, thank you so much for coming on today and taking time out of your schedule to visit with us. And we wish you the best of luck in Ache. When is that going to be coming out? Tell us.
That is opening in Wellington, New Zealand on the 24th of October. And I think it's a month run. But can I just add one more thing for tips for people who are thinking about being script writers?
Absolutely.
Is that it is a hugely collaborative process, and way more than often the writer wants. So if you're considering writing a screenplay, writing a film, writing a play, then you have to be really open to other people having input. And especially for films and TV, where there is a huge amount of money being put in, people will give you notes, they will tell you what they think it should be. Because I was thinking about this when I was prepping for this. I was thinking about how it must be cool being a novelist, and probably you just write what you want, and I imagine you sit there with an editor, but it's kind of like your baby, and you are driving this baby. But with screenplays, not so much plays, but with TV and film, lots of people have input. So yeah, that's just something to think about if you are comfortable with that. And it's quite challenging at times when you write something and they're like, no, we want it to be like this. So yeah, just thought that was another good tip for people considering.
You really have to be open to change and have kind of a thicker skin for criticism. And you end up where the project you had in mind turns out to be completely different than where you started and what you thought it was going to be, and still be okay with that.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and it sounds like it's just a big collaboration where you do have to be open-minded, but that it's a collaboration that isn't always a bad thing to say, okay, I'll do it your way, because it is all the minds together which creates something bigger or something better. So I think that's the same also with, I've co-authored some books, and definitely two minds together was better than just mine by myself or his by himself, or that sort of thing. So collaboration is always good when writing.
For sure.
Yeah. Can, well, like the tables that you talked about going on, it sounds like it's like a whole brainstorming thing, and it's exciting and fun when you do it that way.
Yeah, and it's good because it's pretty rigorous. So you can say, why would they do that? You can, there's quite a lot of heated debate, which is really healthy and really good because it really puts the story through the ringer, and you've got to be able to answer those questions, stand up strong and know the answers. Otherwise, it's the audiences are very smart, so they'll be like, especially around logic and why characters do things, and so there's a good thing to.
Is there anything else that you would say that maybe a screenwriter should definitely do, or definitely should not do before we go?
Yes, I think they definitely should rewrite. I see a lot of new playwrights, especially because plays are kind of easier to get up, and the work is undercooked. You write the first draft and you think it's finished, and you think it's the most beautiful baby you've ever made. But writing is rewriting. I would say, like for plays, I do at least 7 or 8 drafts. And I don't know how many I would do for TV and film. Heaps. So rewrite. And the other thing I would do or say is don't show anyone your work until it's as good as it can be. Because there is a real tendency and a need. I've got this, whenever I write something, I want to show it to someone and I want them to tell me how great I am and how great it is. I want my little pat on the back. But you only get a first read one time, and so it's really important that the read is as exciting and dynamic and as good as it can be. So even though you really want to show it, keep working on it until you don't know how to make it any better. You could show it to a script advisor, send it to the services, get some feedback, incorporate that. Make it as good as you can before it goes out into the world.
That's great. Very good.
Well, thank you so much again for being here. That is awesome advice. I think you gave us a lot of great tips for screenwriters and scriptwriters that want to be out there. I learned tons today by listening to you. I don't know if I could go write a script. That's not my thing, but I think other people who that's their thing, I think you gave them a really great bunch of information that they could go and just start heading in that direction if they've always wanted to do that. And thank you so much for joining us and your wonderful play that's coming out. And can't wait to see the Wet Hot Beauties, what you're going to do with that.
Thanks so much. It's been great talking to you, ladies.
All right, we're going to post your website and where you can see the plays. And I think you have a link to your TED Talk right on the website as well. So if you'd like to see the Wet Hot Beauties TED Talk, you can see it there. You can see Pip unrobe right there on TED. So thanks so much. This is Hot Chicks, Write Hot Books. Just remember, if you want to go on a book writing retreat with us down to the Dominican Republic, we would love to have you and write your book at the beach and sit by the pool and jump off of waterfalls and go hiking through the rainforest. We do all kinds of wonderful things while we're down there. You get a book written in a week. It's pretty magical. So we're going to have some great book writing systems coming out as well that you can buy some of our products if you're interested in doing that as well. And we hope to see you next time on our next podcast. See you soon.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Awesome.
For more information, you can visit our website at hotchickswritehotbooks.com, or you can text your name and email address to 832-572-5285.